Hey there, my name's Tiago Forte, and this is a walkthrough of my weekly review. This is the exact process that I follow every week to go from total chaos in my digital world all the way to total clarity on what I need to get done that week. Let's start at the very beginning. The first thing I want to do before diving into all these random files on my desktop or my email inbox is to bring up my weekly review checklist. So I'm going to do a little search for Stickies, which is the built-in Stickies program that comes with every Mac. And I just have one little digital sticky note here, which is my weekly review checklist, which is only 5 items. I can see here this is supposed to be number 3. So really, this is the checklist I want to follow. I don't want to do things randomly or haphazardly. I want to do things in an order that makes sense, and that I know what's coming and everything is predictable. So let's actually start with email. To do that, I'll open up Chrome, and I have it here in my bookmarks bar. I use an email program called Superhuman, but it looks very much the same in Gmail, which is what most people use. I have this sorted in reverse chronological order, where the most recent emails are at the very top. But I actually don't want to start here. I want to start at the oldest stuff. That way I'm sure that I'm really comprehensively taking care of every single thing in my email inbox. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and you can see here, today is May 18th, so I have about 4 days or so worth of emails. So I'm going to start at the very bottom here, going back about 4 days. And for each email, I'm not trying to necessarily take the action that's needed. I'm just trying to decide what that action is. Okay, and this is a really important distinction. If you start actually taking action on your emails, you're going to get sucked into this vortex and spend the entire day just kind of firefighting and dealing with emails rather than doing the important, meaningful work that you have to get done. So what I'm going to do is try to just decide what needs to be done about this email. What is it asking me? Okay, so this is a note from a collaborator of mine, just kind of responding to something that I had written. And, I could just shoot back a quick, okay, great, or got it. But there's actually some additional thoughts that I've come up with over the weekend that I want to send to him. So what I'm going to do is open up my task manager. And to do that, I'm going to do a quick search for things, which is the task manager app that I use. It's made by a company called Cultured Code. And once this is open, I can go back to the browser, and I have an extension that I've installed from Things, which is called Quick Capture. Okay, it's a built-in feature of Things. And what it allows me to do is, once I'm looking at a web page such as this one, I can hit a shortcut on my keyboard, which in my case is Control-Option-Spacebar. And then this little window pops up. This is the Quick Capture window. And the reason it's Quick Capture is, you'll notice it just kind of pops up right here in the middle of my screen. I don't have to go somewhere else. I don't have to switch my focus. It pops up kind of right on top of whatever I'm doing. And the key feature here, which you can see right here, is the link to this email. Okay, this is really one of the key things that you need to be able to quickly get to inbox 0. So what it does is it provides a link back to this email. So what I can say here is write or reply to Dan's email about bundling our subscriptions. Okay, that's the action that I need to take, and this is the email thread that I'm referring to. So I'm just going to hit return on the keyboard, and you can see it just disappears. Where it's actually going is the inbox right there, the inbox of my task manager, but I don't need to worry about that right now. I'm focused on getting through my email. Okay, so now that I've captured the task, the action associated with this message, I can just hit the E key to archive it. That's the same shortcut in Gmail. I think you have to activate it in the settings, but once you do, you can just hit E, and that message is archived. And you can see here, it takes me directly to the very next message. So this is a thread on an article based on a transcript that I'm working with a few people on. You can see there's quite a long email thread. I'm just going to quickly read here. Okay, this is just kind of something I need to be aware of, not something I need to take action on. So I'm going to go ahead and hit E and archive it. Okay, similar thing here. Okay, so it looks like this email from a few emails back, I'm going to want to review the podcast transcript and decide which one to use. There were kind of two options here that I want to decide between. So return and archive. You can see that whether there's an action for me to take on an email or not, it barely makes a difference. In either case, I'm spending a matter of seconds, maybe no more than 20 or 30 seconds to decide what to do with that email. So here's another email on that same project. So I'm going to do a quick capture and say, add these client companies to AOA. That's the short name for the project announcement post, and return. So this is just an acknowledgement of something that I wrote previously. So I'm going to archive. Okay, let's see. So this is going to be schedule call with Joe to I'm just adding a little bit of context for my future self so I know what the scheduling call is about. It's just answering this question, what is the course that we're going to be launching? So I'm going to hit save, hit return. Here's a little comment on a YouTube video. I can just hit E for archive. Okay, so this is review and make changes to contract and statement of work with Joe, return, archive. This I already saw. Okay, so this I'm going to email. And by the way, you can see there's a little kind of word being inserted here. This is a feature that I use on a program called Alfred, where if I type /E, it inserts email, or /RE, review, /S, schedule, /P. This is called a text expander. And you can either use it as part of a third-party app such as Alfred, or there's another one called, I think, Text Expander, or this is actually also a built-in feature of most modern operating systems. So you're free to use either one of those, and it's completely optional, of course. So I'm going to email Dan and Tristan about subscription bundle. You can see I don't have to add a lot of detail here, right? No one else has to understand what this means. I don't need to add all these criteria and details. Really, I'm just putting the minimum amount of information so that when I see this task in the future or in a few minutes, I'll know what to do about it. So that's enough detail, and I'm going to hit save and archive. Okay, this is a case study that I filmed with someone. So he's asking me for some things to add to the case study. So this is a great example. You know, most people I imagine would just stop here and think, oh, okay, let me respond to this, and just think, oh, I just need to send a screenshot, a couple screenshots, a picture, really just a handful of things. And that might not seem like a lot, but this will easily take, what, 5, 10, 15 minutes. If 5, 10, 15 minutes passes and I'm completely focused on this one email without knowing all the other emails that are waiting for me in my inbox, I'm kind of losing the thread. I'm losing sight of what is potentially most important. So instead, even though it seems like this would be really easy, I'm going to capture and say, email Brian photos, screenshots for Billy's case study, and archive it. I'm keeping my emphasis on moving quickly and touching lightly, not getting sucked into anything, not diving deep into anything. Really, my goal is just to get through my inbox as quickly as possible. Okay, archive. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a member of my team saying, okay, our Google Drive is not really well organized and there's some work that's needed here. So This is one of those things, it took her 5 seconds to write this, but it kind of implies a project. I don't want to go in and just, create a shared folder that has no kind of context around it. I want to talk about this with my team, see who is the best person to lead what is really a project. I want to really make sure that we're being strategic and intentional about it. So I'm going to talk to Bethany, my assistant, about organizing shared Google Drive folder. Enter, archive. Hacker Newsletter is a newsletter that I subscribe to that kind of gives me a glance at some of the interesting things that are happening mostly in the world of nerds, in the world of software and technology. And I always like to kind of peruse this briefly and see if anything jumps out at me. This one kind of does. The software economy is bigger than you think. So, I could click this and start reading now, but again, that would be getting sucked into something. What I really want to do is save it for later reading when I have more time. So what I'm going to do is right-click the link and then click Save to Instapaper. This is a little button that is added to your browser when you add the Instapaper Chrome extension, which you can see right here. So when I click Save to Instapaper, this little thing comes down, and I now have this this article, which I didn't even have to open, saved in my Read Later app. If you want to peek at what that looks like, this is Instapaper. I don't normally read it on my computer like this. I read it on my phone or on my iPad, but it has a complete list of all the different things that I'd like to read in kind of one succinct list. But let's close that for now because I don't want to get distracted. Okay, let's see if there's anything here. A brief introduction to the beauty of information theory. That sounds right up my alley. So I'm going to save that as well. Retrofuturism sounds kind of cool. Mind-bending books sounds kind of interesting. Okay, that's it. So archive, that's done. This is a newsletter from my friend Taylor. I usually just kind of look briefly through here to see if there's anything super interesting. Nothing really jumps out at me, so I'm going to hit archive. Okay, so this is interesting. It's a member of my team, it's my assistant asking about logos to see where we can find logos for our course, Building a Second Brain. And notice something here, which is this is highly related to an email that we saw a few minutes ago, which was reorganizing the shared Google Drive. Do you see how those things are connected? There's two separate people on my team having different problems or different things they're looking for, both of which could be solved by the same task, which is organizing our shared Google Drive. So if I had answered these in isolation as one-offs, I wouldn't see that pattern, that connection between them. By getting quickly and efficiently through my email inbox, I'm able to see these sort of related problems that we're having. So what I want to do here is add it to talk to Bethany about adding assets to shared G Drive folder. Enter and archive. Here's the newsletter from Pat Flynn. Nothing really jumps out at me. I can archive that. This was from a meeting last week where we weren't sure what the Zoom link is, and so they had to email it to me, so I'm just going to hit archive. Same thing here, archive. So interesting. This is a retrospective that Lauren did on our mentor program. We launched a mentor program for our online course. So what I'm going to do here, I don't really need the email. I really just need the link. So I'm going to copy the link, then do quick capture for things and say, review Lauren's mentor program retrospective, and then hit tab, Command V to paste the link right there, and then hit save, or in this case, Control Save, and then E for archive. Okay. Here is that transcript again. So again, I'm going to say review Joe's transcript and provide my feedback. Enter archive. We had a little snafu with Zoom late last week, and a member of my team wrote down an SOP, which stands for Standard Operating Procedure. So this looks good. He clearly, thought it out very well. How the steps we can take to avoid this in the future. So I'm just going to respond because this will take just seconds and say, looks great. Can you create this as an SOP? Which he knows what that means. We have all our SOPs stored in Notion. And that will just be him essentially getting this text and pasting it into the list of SOPs in Notion. So once I'm done writing that, I can hit Command Enter to send it and then archive. Okay, so this is another thread about the same project about cameras. I've asked him to look into getting a DSLR, which is a high-end camera, to use as his webcam. But in order to answer this, I actually need to do a couple tests. So tests, I'm going to say test new DSLR setup, and give my recommendations to Joe for his setup. Okay, so you can see here, I'm really not taking an action. I'm doing the bare minimum of thinking just to determine what I'll need to do in order to respond to this thread. So this is how, something that's quite complex. This might take me an afternoon to test out the different kinds of projects and how they work and how they look. It really just takes me a minute to capture what that action will be so that I can continue moving forward. So I'm gonna hit save and then archive, and that's done. YouTube comment, archive. Okay, so review Billy's advice on landing page URLs in ConvertKit, right? I know you have no idea what that means. I'm using abbreviations. I'm really kind of being very minimal in the details that I include here, but that's fine because this is only for my own use. And I'm going to get back to this task very soon. So that's really just enough. Save, archive. This is an email related to our home loan. I'm going to go ahead. Actually, I'm going to say read email about home loan, because those messages tend to be quite complex with a lot of details. So I don't want to do it now. I don't want to get sucked in. I'm just going to say read the email, save, and archive. This is a thread I know with a bunch of clients that my collaborator has worked with. So I'm going to say add a list of past clients to AOA announcement posts. I already know, even without looking through the thread, what it's related to, so I don't even really have to open the thread. That will be enough in archive. This is related to our online forum. I tend to do these all at once a week, so I'm just going to archive that. I'm going to read this briefly. Emails from my assistant I tend to pay a little more attention to because they're often timely. Okay, this is really just to let me know that the new blog posts that I've drafted are loaded into WordPress and are ready to go. So I really don't need to do anything. I already have a task on my list to pick back up on those drafts. So I'm just going to go ahead and archive that. That's a notification, archive. This is a newsletter, but I'm not really interested in seeing it right now, so archive. Cool. Sometimes people just send me things they just want me to kind of be aware of. I'm just going to briefly look through this. I can see he's talking about Octavia Butler, which is an author I'm really interested in. Cool. That's good enough. Archive. Okay, archive. Really, I'm just kind of scanning and searching for anything that could be relevant for me to take action on. If it's just something I need to see, be aware of, be notified of, really there's nothing else to do besides archive it and move forward. Let's see here. This is an email about our online course. It's actually looking at it more closely, it's about an article I wrote on Para. Just has some questions. At the end of the article, I asked for feedback about the article, so I sometimes get these emails with people giving me their feedback. Okay, that's good to know. It's good, useful feedback, but not really any action for me to take, so I'm going to go ahead and archive. Okay, this is another recording. So you can see there's a lot of different actions related to this one project, which is called AOA. I can't get into any of them. In fact, I want to kind of batch them together. I want to group them all in one place and then just knock them out one after the other. And especially this one, which is a recording, I definitely am not going to sit here at my desk listening to what is probably quite a long recording. So instead, I'm going to do /L, actually LT, which is listen to, interview recording with Joe and Brett. Hit enter, archive, and here we go. Okay, this is actually an email that I saw late last week but didn't get to. It's about turning a local meetup that a couple people are organizing into an official Building a Second Brain meetup group. That's something interesting, but I want to just kind of review Seattle local meetup group. And I know what they're going to be asking me is actually to announce it to all of the graduates of my course. But before I agree to that, I want to kind of review his earlier email, which I know is quite long. So announce to BASB alumni. Enter, archive, and that's it. Here's a YouTube notification, can archive that. Here's an email that a friend of mine, Mina, sent me about market research for a project that we're working on. This is a big conference called Wisdom 2.0 that I've been inspired by in the past, but I don't really have time to go through this in detail. So what I'm going to do is hit F and forward it to Evernote. And this is a special designated email address that every Evernote user is given. And basically anything you send to that address automatically gets added to your Evernote account. So I don't have to really add anything. As long as it gets sent to that address, it will be added to my Evernote inbox. So I can just hit Command Enter. That will be forwarded to Evernote, which I'm going to pick up later, and then I can just hit Archive. Okay. This is a reply to a thread that I started with two of my teammates about a partner program or an affiliate program that we're thinking of starting. So what I'm going to do is say add to list of potential projects for Q3. We have an upcoming meeting this Thursday where we're going to be planning Q3, and so that's enough detail for me to know that that's part of the planning for that meeting. So enter, archive. Okay, this is, I had asked a collaborator of mine who I've hired to send me the final contract that she signed. So she's telling me she'd already sent it. Here it is. I'm just going to download that. That's going to pop up. It's going to go straight to my downloads folder, and I can just move on because I'm going to be getting to my downloads folder according to my little list here very soon. So don't need to take any further action. I can just maybe thank her, send, archive, and that's it. Here is an update from a friend of mine about what he's doing in the midst of COVID. So I'll just read kind of a few things here. Very cool. He's working on a YouTube channel, working on his company. Great. So really no particular action for me to take, but it's nice to know what's up with him. If I wasn't doing a walkthrough recording, I might take a couple more minutes and get a little bit more detail, but for now, I'll just archive this. Here is a thank you message, which I really love. These kind of things I would probably stop and read because they're so motivating. There's such a nice shot of energy into my day. But because I'm kind of pressed for time here and I don't want to take the time, I'm just going to say read BASB grad testimonial. Enter, archive. So this is someone asking me if I can help them learn how to use Notion. This isn't really the kind of thing I do. I really direct people towards my courses. I really try to avoid one-on-one coaching. It's just not my strength. So I'm really not going to answer this. I'm going to archive. Okay, this is our mortgage specialist telling us that they'll let us know something. I'm just going to go ahead and archive that. Okay, so this is interesting. My business coach Billy is telling me, I had CC'd him on a sort of a plan for how we are using our email marketing platform, which is called ConvertKit. And I didn't know if he was going to respond, if he was going to be interested, but he actually said, I'd like to be part of this thing. So what I'm going to do, I don't yet know what time that's going to be, but I'll just say add Billy to ConvertKit planning meeting. And that's it. Enter archive. Here is an email about a meeting happening today. I'll just read the subject. Not really relevant to my current projects or something that I want to make the time for, so I'm just going to hit archive. And that's it. Okay, so that was a little bit accelerated. A few of those emails I might have taken just a few more minutes to kind of see what they're about and potentially respond. But you can see in a matter of, what was that, maybe 10, 15 minutes at most, I was able to get through 4 or 5 days of emails. Really, it was a highly streamlined, highly efficient process of just extracting what is the to-do, what is the task, what is the action, without getting sucked into actually taking those actions. It's kind of a demonstration of your email is not a workspace, it's not a project management tool, it's not a CRM, really it's a notification system. That is the only thing your email should be accomplishing. And if you just treat each email as a notification of something you might potentially need to do, extract that action, and then move forward quickly, you'll find that inbox zero is quite feasible and something that you can achieve regularly without too much effort.